Okwoma biomesiede eho. Okwoma biomesiede o eho. Uhame okwosi. Ologoma okwosi o ọba ewae dami o. Where you walk by you tata. Uri you walk by ye gele gele. Utanta no evia ogiso giamie. Yes, once again, ladies and gentlemen, I would say merriments of the season and a prosperous new year in advance. To all those of you who are my followers, my numerous followers, and to those who don't follow me, I want to say the Almighty God will continue to bless you all in the new year. You see, I know it has been a long time that the Stts, the Sydney Table Talk Show, has not presented new arguments based on the statutes of the Oba of Benin. Before I start this theme of discussion, I want to say I highly sympathize with those people in Olegun village whose houses were destroyed by the moron or monkey who came and brought down what people have worked all their lives for. And after that, ladies and gentlemen, the topic of today's discussion is the territorial status of the Oba of Benin before 1897 and its status as well. Who was the Oba of Benin before 1897 and where was his territorial status? The Oba of Benin was never known as the Oba of Benin before 1897. Rather, he was known as Ogienekwe or Ogiekwe, meaning the representative of the kings of the Yorubas in Benin. That is what we all knew him for before 1897. Now, what happened? We have to go first and determine his territorial status before 1897. The Oba of Benin, as we all know, was in charge of Uselu Ego. That is exactly where his territory was until 1897 when he was defeated by the British Empire. Secondly, we say, who were his chiefs? The Oba of Benin had no dukes, but he had palace chiefs. His palace chiefs are as follows: Ayobaha, Obaseki, Ulugbusere, Uso, Nwagwe, Oba Iwana, Oba Hawaii, Oba Isiagbon, Olianogele, Ezomo, Uyigwe, and Edohen. These were the chiefs of the Oba of Benin. They were not dukes, they were palace chiefs to the Oba of Benin. And as a matter of fact, during the invasion of the Oba of Benin in 1897, the Oba of Benin could only rely on these people to defend himself. But they were not dukes. They were not kings. So they had no followers. Neither do they have an army that could defend the Oba of Benin. So it is very clear why the Oba of Benin crumbled in 1897. If you want to understand again, I will remind you once more. The Oba of Benin only occupied the territory called Uselu, which was based on the Ekiopa Treaty of 1255 AD between Ogiamie, Erebo, and Ewedo. Alright? I have already mentioned his palace chiefs to you. And now let us go to it before 1897. We had several kingdoms in the current Edo South, the place he now calls Benin Kingdom. Benin Kingdom never existed. I've just been able to prove that to you now. Benin Kingdom never actually existed. What existed was Uselu of the Oba of Benin, and the Oba of Benin was known as Ogienekwe or Ogiekwe, the king of the Yorubas. Now, the place you now known as Benin Kingdom before 1897, I am going to mention to you the kingdoms that existed before 1897. We had Ugo, Ogugo, Ego, Ogiego, Umogu Nokwa, Ogi Umogu, Egba, Ogiegba, Ulegu, Ogi Ulegu, Imi, Ogimi, Iyase Ofudo, Elawuro Ofuse, Ogieho, Ugoneki, Ogi Ugoneki. We had Utantandi Ogiame, who was the supreme king in those territories. And we have Utantan of the Ogiame, Ogiso, Odoliji of Igbanke, Agadagba of Igbema, who represents the Ijos, who was the king of the Ijos, Oba Nihwe, now known as Oba Of Benin. You are a trickish and a bloody bastard. Oba Nihwe, as a matter of fact, the Oba was not the only title that was connected to the word. The Oba of Benin was not the only person connected to the title Oba. Before 1897, we had two Oba. We had Obanus Uselu, who is known as Ogiekwe, and we had Obanihwe, who was the local government area, now popularly called Oheneriekui. I will tell you what happened after 1979 to Obanihwe. Then we had Ogiobe, and we have Ogiekwe, who is the Oba of Benin. These were the kingdoms that existed in the current territory you now call Benin Kingdom. I have not been able to put all the kingdoms down, but this is quite a huge number of the kingdoms that existed before 1897 in the current Benin Kingdom. Okay, now what happened? How Benin Kingdom was now founded? How Benin Kingdom became Benin Kingdom? You see, in 1897, in brief, the Oba of Benin was invaded by the British Empire, and he was defeated. How he was defeated, we should not go into that because he was defeated. He was defeated. After the defeat, the British, who had already torn the entire territory to Benin Kingdom without knowledge of the settings of that kingdom, actually came up with an alternative. How are they going to govern the people? Because they have no knowledge of the culture of the people. In order not to find themselves in a big trouble with indigenous people, they now nominated Agwo Obaseki, one of the high chiefs of the Oba of Benin, to be the administrator of the Benin Kingdom. This is how Benin Kingdom was officially laid down. But how Benin Kingdom came into being was now the handwork of Agwo Obaseki. Agwo Obaseki, naturally, being the administrator of Benin Kingdom and knowing and understanding the territorial integrity, he immediately brought all these kingdoms that I have mentioned under his control in the Benin Native Law Authority. This was how Benin Kingdom started and took shape. So Agwo was the man representing now all these kings before the British Empire or the colonial master. By the time Agwo was relieved of this position, Eweka II was now sworn in as the Oba. Eweka II now took control of the native law authority. For the first time, the Oba of Benin will be in control of all these aforementioned kings and their territories. And this was how Benin Kingdom finally was founded. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about facts. Because if the Oba of Benin had all these kings under his control, Ugo, Ego, Mogunokwa, Egba, Ulegun, Imi, Udo, Use, Eho, Ugoneki, Utantan, Igbanke, Egbema, Ihwen, Obe, Ekwe. Alright? If the Oba had all these territories, all these kingdoms under his control before the invasion, it would have taken the British more than 3 to 4 years to conquer him. But because he had no control, he had palace chiefs. He was residing and controlling Uselu. And that was why he was swiftly swept aside in 6 days. And as a matter of fact, when the Oba was invaded and defeated, Ogiami Edogiawere objected to the British occupation of Utanta and the entire territory now called, starting from Oriomo, Omonde, Ibuba, Ogiami objected, making the British understand that the Oba was only in charge of Uselu. The British now arrested Ogiami Edogiawere. For this reason, Ogiami Edogiawere spent 3 months in the British prison. 3 months in the prison, he was then released. That is how Benin Kingdom was founded, ladies and gentlemen. You see, I prefer to be very, very brief in what I'm saying because, you see, most of our histories were not recorded. I think the most important thing is that if you have your brain, you can also sit down and then analyze informations that have been put before you. And in analyzing these informations, you will be able to come out with facts. You see, not what they are telling you, because whatever they are telling you, it's what is favorable to them. But if you analyze the facts, you would find that whatever they are telling you are all nothing but bullshit. The Oba before 1897 never controlled or had any duke. There was no dukedom before 1897 in the current Benin Kingdom. What we had was little, middle, big kingdoms. We had them. And they were all autonomous. The reasons why they did not fight themselves for supremacy was that most of these kingdoms were all interrelated. They either comes from the Oba's family or they comes from the Ogiami Ogisu's family. So for these reasons, they never fought themselves. And the territories that they occupied were territories that they founded. They were territories that were empty before their arrival. So there was no need fighting them. These were unoccupied territories, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so now we have discussed briefly about before 1897. Don't forget, the Oba of Benin had no Benin Kingdom before 1897. The man who created Benin Kingdom was Awo Obaseki. And he did this because he was nominated by the British to be the administrator of the Benin Native Law Authority. And our indigenous kings could not fight him because he had the British colonial authorities' support. And so, invariably, most of these kings went into oblivion. All right? I have just told you about the territorial status of the Oba of Benin and its actual status in the current Benin Kingdom and how Benin Kingdom was created. Okay? Now, let me go to Izodua. Izodua said the Oba of Benin that the Nigies can be abolished. Unfortunately, Mr. Izodua, when you're talking about the Nigies, you have to make a difference. You have to make a difference because the aforementioned kings that I mentioned, the Ogies, they were not dukes. It was a Rediawa or his son, Eware, who forcefully, using government instrument of office, to force them and begin to answer the title Enigi. As a matter of fact, the only Enigis we have in Benin are those ones that the Obas invented. I can name a few of them. The Enogi of Etete, the Enogi of Amagba, the Enogi of Ologbo, the Enogi of Siloko, the Enogi of Obazagbo, the Enogi of Babadash, and the Enogi of Bullshit. These are Enogis, or these are Enigis. The ones that I mentioned, whose names are attached, Ogi, they were not dukes. They were not dukes, and they were not Enigi to the Oba of Benin. The Oba of Benin cannot abolish their status. Not even the state government can abolish their status. The Oba of Benin can only abolish the illegal titles that he created, and these titles were not backed by law. So put it right in your brain, Now, there's another issue you raised in your last video. You said that these enigies, most of them belong to confraternities. Well, Mr. What is his name again? Isuderimi. The Oba of Benin is a senior member of the Ogboni fraternity. So what is the fun about your statement? The Oba of Benin belongs to several confrères. So coming to say the Enigies, they belong to confraternity, is all bullshit. It has nothing. It doesn't hold any water, And let me tell you, any Edo person who will come out to come and say, oh, these Enigies, they took the decision to be independent of the Oba of Benin and try to fight them. That man or that woman from Edo is a stupid human being. We are living in the 21st century. We are all crying that Nigeria must be restructured. At the same time, the Edo South must be restructured. The traditional institution must be restructured. The Oba of Benin cannot be allowed to hold the state government to ransom. We must reduce the power of the Oba of Benin. The law is very clear. And there's one funny thing you did the other day, Izoderini. You brought the 1979 chieftaincy law. You were castigating these enigies or these dukes. And you continued for more than 2 hours saying that you are going to mention those ones who signed the documents of their independence. But 2 hours into the program, you did not mention anybody. All right? So let me tell you one thing. Of the 92 enigies that you mentioned, I want to thank you for giving me the exact figure of the enigies that you mentioned. I can guarantee you, Mr. Izodelimi, that there are over 20 who are Ogies. They are not enigies. The Oba can never abolish their title. He does not have that power. Tell him I said so. He does not have that power. It's only a monkey that talks the way you talk. A moron. Because you people are monkeys. If you are not monkeys, you have no single capacity to analyze facts. Just like the case of the Ekipara Treaty. You once said, the Oba of Benin so beat the Ogiame, and then he dragged the Ogiame on his nails from Unweru to the place where the treaty was enacted. Now, one would have imagined that since the Oba of Benin defeated the Ogiame, had them beaten up mercilessly, dragged him on his knees to Ekipara, then a treaty was enacted, then one would have expected that that treaty remains the evidence that the Oba of Benin defeated the Ogiame. Therefore, it is the Ogiame who should be running from the treaty, not the Oba of Benin. But what are we seeing today? The Oba of Benin is running from the treaty. If the Oba runs from the treaty, it then shows that the Oba has something to hide. Now, you discussed again the issue of the rights of the state government over the traditional institution. Unfortunately, I think that your understanding of English language, it's not very efficient, because the word rights can only be exercised by citizens. What a government does is to exercise authority. You see, if you don't understand, you better ask your senior brother, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria and the Attorney General of the state, Mr. Osadeba Yamu or Mr. Charles Edusoma. Citizens can only exercise their rights before the government, and the government can only exercise the authorities on their citizens. So therefore, that the state cannot exercise the right over the traditional institution is a wrong grammar, wrong one. The thing wrong well, my brother. You don't know what you're saying. You're just talking because you want to talk. I remember one time somebody called me and said, do you know Izodarimi? This is Izodarimi Maswe. I said, I don't know him. He's a little boy. I personally feel that I don't really have to grind anything with him because I believe that the young man does not know simple arithmetic. That is 6 minus 1. What is the meaning of 6 minus 1? Oduduwa was the first Oni of Ife. That is 1. And what is 6? Oramiya was the 6th Oni of Ife. So when you say 6 minus 1, what do you have? You have 5. But you, Izoduwa, you keep telling us that 6 minus 1 is equal to 2, meaning that Ikaladera is Oduduwa. I don't know how you derived your your formation. I don't actually know. I don't know. All right. Now we've spoken about that. And again, Mr. Izodarimi. But for how long do you think that the Oba of Benin created this illegal institution of Eniges? And what actually happened? And what makes the Oba beat his chest all the time? What makes him beat his chest all the time when dealing with the state government? You see, from 1924 to 2022, when the Oba gradually started incursions into the territories of those aforementioned indigenous kings like the Ogyugo, Iyase of Udo, Elawura of Use, what the Oba did was create a dukedom very close to the territories of these kings to what? To subtract lands from these people. So he created so much that, from my calculation, from 1924 to 2022, based on your figures, the Oba could have created not less than about 50 to 55 dukedoms. But the question is, Mr. Izoduwa, does the Oba of Benin has the authority? It is not rights. The Oba does not have any rights to create dukedoms. The Oba would need authority to create dukedoms, Mr. Izoduwa. The Oba does not have any rights at all to create dukedoms because the word right is exercised by citizens, while authorities are what? Institutions. Since the Oba is an institution, the question is, does the Oba of Benin, or where does he derive the authority to create dukedoms? The Oba does not have any authority. What he has been doing, he has been illegally creating these dukedoms, at the same time using intimidatory acts to suppress the people of these territories, arbitrarily changing the names of villages to Obanuse, Obanuya, Obanewe, Obanemonkey. You understand? When you change the name of a territory, what you have done to those people is that you have destroyed their history. Not only that, you have destroyed their cultural heritage. That is what it means. So the Oba of Benin continues to act illegally. But I think that we're at the close end of his illegality. I want to plead with the Honorable Governor of the state and his deputy that if Nigerians are clamoring for the restructuring of the Republic of Nigeria, I am clamoring for the restructuring of the traditional institution in Edo South. There is need to do it. Families have been relieved of their properties. Families have been intimidated into giving up what belongs and what their forefathers fought for. what their forefathers left for them through intimidation. Come to think of it, it's so there. Any man who says you cannot question him, that man must be a criminal, meaning that man has something to hide. And the only man who is doing that in Nigeria is the Oba of Benin. The Oba of Benin is the only man in Benin City or in Nigeria who is saying that anybody who questions him will be intimidated. You see, the moment you say, this thing is not going to work, the Oba of Benin and his agents of darkness, they will go and gather all the, what we call knockdown vehicle spare parts, and call it Ogun or Shango. They go to Ring Road and they start to threaten people. But why would Oba of Benin threaten people, intimidate people, if he believes that he's truly the owner of the territory? There should be documents to this, because the Oba of Lagos has documents relating to his territory. The Olu of Ishekiri has documents relating to his own territory, the Ishekiri. Why is the Oba intimidating people? If he has nothing to hide, Mr. Isodere. Now, let's put that aside. Let me treat the EU. You said Benin Kingdom is 2,000 years old. Oh, yeah. You see, at times I feel, and I'm sure you don't drink, but at times I feel that you have some mental incapacity, just like AY. AY is a psychopathic moron, just like what you are. You are a psychopathic moron. If you are not a psychopathic moron, how can you say, or how dare you say that Benin Kingdom is 2,000 years old? Where and how did you come by those figures? Where and how did you come by those figures? It's only a monkey like you and your friend Ewari that can make such affirmations. You people should be thanking the Obaseki's family for creating Benin Kingdom for you. I've just explained to you how Obaseki created Benin Kingdom. He was meant to lead the Benin Native Authority, and with his knowledge of the entire territory, he brought all those kingdoms that I've mentioned before under his control. They were not under the Oba's control before the Oba was sent into exile. It was through this process when Eweka II was now handed over the law authority, native law authority, that Eweka now saw the opportunity to manipulate these indigenous traditional rulers or these indigenous kings, Mr. Isoduwa. You see, and again you said, people should not worry that Obaseki only has 2 years to spend. 2 years is too much for Obaseki to deal with the problem that is emanating from the traditional institution. Obaseki, in 3 months, 6 months, he can break everything into pieces, rearrange everything in order. Maybe you are sleeping. Some of you are claiming that this is Benin. It cannot happen in Benin because it happened in Kano. But what you don't know is that it happened in Kano. It happened in River State. It happened in Osun. It happened in Lagos. It happened in Cross River. It happened in Plateau. So why then do you think that it cannot happen in Edo South? It will happen. It will happen. The Benin Traditional Council cannot begin to place itself at par with the state government. That is unacceptable. The executive government of the state was elected by the people. And in fact, in the last election, the Oba of Benin came out openly, contested with Obaseki and Philip Schwaibo. He lost the election. That would have been enough for him to shut his mouth and never say anything. But he continues and he continues and he continues to talk like a monkey moron. And that is what he is. He's a moron. If he's not a moron, he's not the only traditional ruler in Nigeria. We have a lot of them, and they are not having problem with their state governments. So why is he having problem? He's having problem because he's a psychopathic non-entity. All right, that is what he is. This my tea is sweet. Now, there's another issue I would like to treat here. I have heard that Oromia built a palace in Usama. Oromia never built a palace in Usama. Oromia lived in a hut in Usama. He never built a palace. If he built a palace, then by 1897, where was this palace? Because historically documented, the only house or the only palace that survived the invasion of Benin in 1897 is the palace of the great Ogiamie Evian Ogiso royal family. No other palace, no other house. If he built a palace, show me the relics of this palace. Don't continue to tell me things and said I should not question you. I will. Now, lastly, I am going to raise some questions for Chief Sam Igbe, the ESL of Benin, that motherfucker who came up and started saying that the Yekogba belongs to the Oba of Benin, Ugonere belongs to the Oba of Benin. Sam Igbe, you don't know anything about the Igodo Migodo. So I would advise you to be very careful when you talk so that the gods of Igodo Migodo do not cripple you like it did to a Debiri, Sonroni, and so on and so forth. So my questions to Samigbe, the Attorney General of the State, Sadebame Iyamu, Samudiame Iyamu, Izudelini Imaswan, and Barrister Edusoma, and Ayame Edopolo. I'm raising these questions for you people, and I would like you people to answer me because it is important you answer me. What is revealed in a ritualist? I want you people to tell me what is revealed in a ritualist, because the Oba of Benin is a ritualist. He is still killing people. He is still using people for rituals. I have accused him, and up till date, I have gotten no reply or no refutal, meaning that he is doing it. 2, what is revealed in a man who is depriving 12,000 families of their livelihood? From Orion, I beg your pardon, between Ikbobaoha and Orion local governments, the Oba of Benin, criminally, through his good friend, Adamso Shomole, one of the most ugliest human beings you can think of in this world, he took over 15,000 hectares of lands. 15,000 hectares of land, when multiplied by 2.8, because 2.8 means 2.8 acres make 1 hectare. We're talking about close to 47,000 acres of land. Now, when redistributing this land at 3 acres per family, you find out that the Oba of Benin is depriving 12,000 families of their means of livelihood through the stealing of their lands, 15,000 hectares of lands. 15,000 hectares of lands. I've said it before. For those of you who know a Papa Wolf, that land means 150 times the size of a Papa Seaport. The only excuse we got from the Oba of Benin was he was going to build an ethanol refining. Oh, yeah. Nigeria will lack the capacity to refine our petroleum. Nigeria does not have problem with ethanol. This man could not come up with excuse, a more reasonable excuse that he was going to use that land for the building of petroleum refinery, petrochemical refinery, but rather ethanol. He will plant cassavas and then refine them into ethanol. Uji, moron monkeys. After getting those lands, he will start to sell them to companies. That is exactly what their plans were. All right. Number 3. What is refined or reviled in a man who illegally destroyed over 60 houses that people built? People worked all their life, built houses. And this man came with his monkeys and they destroyed the people's property. And the only excuse that they could give was that the Oba of Benin was going to build a palace there. You will build palace everywhere. Moron, monkey, why? You are going to build palace everywhere. You will build in Gelegele. You will soon go and build in Port Harcourt. You build in Abuja. You build in London. You build in Tokyo, Nagasaki, everywhere. Motherfucking bastard. You want people to be poor. You want people to come and beg you for Gary. Look at the world. Look at your life. What is fun in it? We're in 2022. You are still wanting people to come and be begging you for what belongs to them. Edo Summer, these questions, I want you to answer these questions. What is revered? I have only asked 3. I'm on the first one. What is revered in a man who insult the state chief executive by accusing him of gun running before the mass media, before the entire public? The revered monarch was accusing the state government and its deputy of gun running. I don't really know. You people are in support of a mentally sick human being that I regard as a monkey moron. Number 5, what is revered in a drug addict? He's a drug addict. What is revered in him? He has to go all the time to drain his blood, clean his blood, because he has so destroyed himself with drug addiction. What is revered in him? Number 6. What is revered in a man who was born out of the customary laws? His mother was never married to his father. And one of the basic concepts of our customary law is your mother must be married to your father. But his mother was never married to his father. Okay? Number 7. What is revered in a man who killed his in-law? This man killed his in-law. You understand? He killed his in-law. And what he did was to pay the mass media not to publish the assassination of this poor woman. May her soul rest in peace. What is revered in him? What is revered in a man who sleeps with his sisters, with all the women in the world? Today, we have women in Asian land. We have in Urobo. We have women all over. But this man will only sleep with his sisters to have children. You know, the fact is that you people have succeeded in cooking that deception that Obioba, it is a lie. Obioba is not exactly the way you people are explaining it. Iyeridiawa is not from the Oba's family. Iyakenzwa is not a cousin to Akenzwa's father. Iyeridiawa is not a cousin to Iyeridiawa's father. But Ewari, Ewari's father, Ewari's father was the first grandson. You see, the first grandson of Oba Eweka the second. And Ewari's mother was the first granddaughter of Eweka the second. One of the reasons why Ewari cannot bury his mother up till date, because when you have to bury your mother, according to the customary laws, you would need the paternal and the maternal family seated during the burial ceremony. But unfortunately, Ewari does not have this status. Ewari can only call the paternal family, who at the same time are the maternal family, because the mother was the first granddaughter of Eweka II, while his father was the first grandson of Eweka II. You see, I can go on, and on and on again. It's quite painful. It's painful that we still have a lot of idiots in Benin there who are still clapping their hands for nonsense. When you talk with them, the only thing they tell you, according to tradition, the Oba of Benin must have lands in any developing town in Edo South. It's a lie. That's not true. This was Erediawa's own cooked up stories. Otherwise, Abudu was a developing town in the days of Oba Akenswa II. I want somebody to go to Abudu and show me the land of Akenswa II in Abudu. Igobazua was developing in the days of Akenswa. I want you to go to Igobazua and show me the land of Akenswa, not the one that Erediawa later came and took. Okada started its development in the days of Oba Erediawa. Go to Okada and show me the land that belongs to Erediawa and Okada. So, ladies and gentlemen, we can talk and talk and talk from now till tomorrow. We will not be able to finish up this story. But like I said, we are at the end of the year, and my sole intention is to wrap up most of the questions that have been thrown open to me in my YouTube channel. Quickly, I would like to answer 3 of those questions. 1, a young man asked me, so why was the Oba of Benin so popular and the Ugeme wasn't popular? Well, very simple. The Oba of Benin is a Yoruba man. The Yorubas, they were one of the first people who met the British or the Europeans. And the Europeans immediately, the Yorubas started getting educated, Western education. And so the Yorubas on their own, the Oba of Benin's advantage over the Ugiame, over Ugiugo, over Ugiego, over Ugieho, over Obanihua, over Ugiegba, Ugiulegun was that they went to school. They acquired the Western education. They used the Western education as an instrument. This was the advantage. It is left for you. Carry out your research. You would understand why the Oba's name or why the Oba was so popular. Then, the slave trade. The Oba of Benin participated actively in slave trade. This equally made him popular. The Europeans made him popular because he was their business partner. So, they made him popular. And so, he was one of the benefactors of their education early enough. The other indigenous kings that I mentioned earlier never went to school. One of the reasons why their stories were suppressed. They never went to school. Because when you look deep into the stories that you have been told, and if you want to be, um, if you want to be honest with yourself, you are going to find too much incongruencies in their stories. Too much. They tell you that the Oba was that there's what they call Benin Empire. There was no empire, ladies and gentlemen. It was the British who came up with all these cooked up stories. There were no empire. If you say there was an empire, Heredia said in his book that there was an empire from the 15th century to the 18th century, okay, to the end of the 18th century. He said there was an empire. But what is funny about this story is that in this same period, Ewakwe the Great was supposed to be an emperor, abandoned by his chiefs, ran to his mother's village, Ikoka. The king of Ikoka, Ogi Koka, I forgot to mention that one, Ogi of Ikoka, a little village, side Benin. The man drove Ewakwe the Great away. He told them, look, where you come from, you people are lazy. You always stay in your house and other people comes to feed you. Here, we work for what we put in our mouths. So if you want to stay with me here, this is a cutlass for you. You must go to farm. He drove the emperor away. Very strange story. Eh? It's a strange story that a small king like Ogikoka, a king of Ikoka, a small village, drove an emperor away. Okay? Ozola went to Ishan land for raiding for slaves. The Ishan people cut off his head. An emperor. Very, very sorry. They are laughable stories, they are laughable. I don't want a repetition, but in order to always beautify things that you say, your presentations, and because they continue to repeat all this nonsense, you need to sort of use them as for fancies, Oba Ohen, he killed his, yes, he was an emperor. He was taken to the square in Ogbe, right? He was dragged out of his palace in Ogbe, and they stoned him to death. He was an emperor. Now, Ewari Ogiligan the first. Ewari Ogiligan himself so messed up himself that at the end of the day, he was abandoned by everybody. And the fact, Ogiobe gave Ewari his daughters to marry. And that comes the story of Ubi. Ubi told Ewari that Ewari was a stinking old man, that she was too pretty to marry such a bastard or a moron monkey. For that reason, when Ewari did not accept Ubi's own idea, Ubi would pee in the food that she was going to give Oba Ewari. Ubi will spit in the food that she was going to give Oba Ewari. So Ubi was feeding Oba Ewari with her pee, spit. She defecates in the food and gives it to Oba Ewari. When they discovered that, Ubi was burnt to death. So as a matter of fact, if you are today, if we are well told, the stories are told, you see that there's no need celebrating the Igwe festival because we live in the 24th century. Celebrating the Igwe festival is like saying that we should celebrate Nazism in Germany. But those who violate human rights, you cannot celebrate. Ewa was an idiot. But what I'm trying to say here is that this was an emperor. Ofurame. Ofurame was an emperor. But you see, I've just told you, Ofurame had about 12 palace chiefs. No duke. He had no duke. He herself, Udo, was not under him. Ogikoka was not under him. Ogiame was not under him. Ogugo was not. Because if they were under him, I repeat, when you geographically look at the territories today, these people would have been able to mobilize at least a minimum of 2,000 fighters. And it would have taken the British a long time to defeat him. But because he was on his own, making noise at Ogbe and using human beings for rituals as a moron monkey, because he knows nothing, they are morons. The British came and captured him and then sent him into exile. It's very, very unfortunate that quite a number of our people, as they say, Obano Yirehwe. Obano Yirehwe. Let him go and Yirehwe. We born nonsense out of Isekia. Itekia Irewa Gimme. Owa Gimme. We born him like a motherfucker, you know. Obano Yirehwe like. On this note, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say again, thank you for listening and following my blog. This is J.R. Sydney for the Sydney Table Talk Show, the Stts. May the Almighty God, who has brought you all this long in this Yuletide season, continue to guide you into the new year. Guidance and protection, long life, peace, and love.